to Good Morning Joy. I'm your host, Shari Alyse, and I am about to serve you a steaming cup of joy and inspiration. So make sure you grab that favorite brew of yours, get cozy, because we are gonna dive in. Today's guest is an incredible inspiration. She embarked on a journey of reinvention at the age of 50. Her intuition led her to make a $1 million decision that has transformed her life. And a little later in the show, I'm going to be talking to some people on the streets sharing their inspiring wisdom on this week's Sharing with Shari. But for now, it's time to share with you the good news that you should know about on the Joy Report.
Do we come up with
What do you want your bandage to be?
The flash running through.
The Flash?
Dr. Robert Perry is a pediatric surgeon who does his best to keep children from being upset about their surgeries. To help them, he puts down his scalpel after surgery and picks up a marker, drawing amazing cartoon characters on their dressings. And when the kids wake up, the wounds don't bother them so much. Since completing his training, Dr. Perry has created 10,000 bandages featuring cartoon characters, animals, cars, and other designs for his young patients at Akron's Children's Hospital in Ohio. Not only do the patients love them upon waking up from surgery, but these kind gestures impact families long after their discharge. Many parents put them in scrapbooks as reminders of their children's courage and resilience, and a doctor's kindness. There are kind people all around the world who go the extra mile to brighten someone's day. Thank you, Dr. Perry, for brightening ours today. And because there is always time for cute animal videos, here's one now. If you've ever wondered if following your intuition could lead to massive success, my guest today proves that it's possible. Tina Romero followed her intuition at the age of 50, and she has transformed her life by making a $1 million decision. Not only is she a #1 multiple best-selling author, but she's a visionary entrepreneur, she's a joyful aging ambassador, and she's the CEO of Synergy Home Care in Central North New Jersey. She is here all the way from New Jersey. Please welcome Tina Romero. Hi, Tina.
Good morning, Joy. Naturally.
Oh, you're making me do this, Shari.
Good morning, Joy sounds much better.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so inspired by you and your story, and we have a lot to cover today because you are changing people's lives. You're giving voice to often the voiceless, the senior community, and you are helping so many people from around the world. But I want to rewind a little bit. I want to take us back to where it all started in 1995 in the Philippines. You came here and immigrated to our country, and from what you said, came from really nothing, and you became a self-made millionaire.
Oh, gosh. So, yes, back in 1995, I came here. My father was already here, which was a good thing for me, but I basically started all over from scratch for myself, right? Like coming here from a different country with no money, not much experience, I felt invisible. I felt, my first job was at the front desk of a hotel, and I cried a lot because everything felt so fast-paced for me. Even though I spoke English in my country, I just felt everybody was speaking so fast, and I just couldn't really understand the American banter. So there's a lot of things that wasn't uncomfortable for me. So everything was so uncomfortable. And, it was one of those difficult moments where you just feel like you don't belong, and you're not seen and invisible. And that's how it started for me when I first came.
Wow. I imagine that there had to be, some key moments or like decisions for you to not only just come here, but then to like build yourself up and to become who you are today. Are you able to share like what maybe some of those decisions were, or those moments?
Yes. So, and as I've said, right, when I first came, I really had no voice. I was afraid to speak up. I just felt I didn't matter, or that nobody could see me. So one of the transformative experiences that I did was really, I think, based out of my love of learning and curiosity. So when I came in the 1990s, IT was a very lucrative field at the time, right? In information technology. I knew a lot of friends were in that field. And so knowing their stories, it sparkled. It sparked that dream in me to have an IT job in corporate America. And so I decided to study computer programming. And I was determined to get a corporate job in IT and have my own cubicle, because that's how I associate corporate America to be at. And a year after, there I was. I got my first corporate job in IT at a large multinational company with the headquarters in New Jersey. And that's how I transformed my life. Because in there, I met my boss, who encouraged me to take my master's. And so the company paid for it, and I did 2 masters, actually, my MBA and my MA in diplomacy in international relations. So I guess, the discipline and commitment required, to study at night and work during the day, that really transformed me and gave me a lot of discipline. And I guess after graduation, that instilled a new sense of confidence in me and making me believe that there's nothing I can do if I just put my heart into it.
I love that. And it feels like that same mindset has really traveled with you, that there's nothing that you cannot do. Because, you're doing work right now, advocacy for seniors, your immigration reform. We're going to get to that. But how did you get into becoming a voice for seniors? Because I know that you're the CEO of Synergy Home Care in North Central New Jersey, and you help them, like you have innovated solutions for them to help people age with dignity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, Synergy Home Care is a franchise business, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, so after I did my MBA, my goal was to start my own business, but I really didn't know what business. And so this is a funny story of how it led into this, but I was in the Philippines on vacation, and I realized that there was no Nathan's franchise, the hot dogs, in the Philippines. And Filipinos...
My mom loves Nathan's hot dogs.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't, right? And Filipinos love hot dogs. So then, at the time, my boyfriend in the US, Tom, I asked him to look up how to franchise Nathan's so I could bring it to the Philippines. So he did look it up, and he filled out a form online with my name and contact information, thinking that it was an inquiry for the Nathan's franchise. And so when I came back from the Philippines, I got a call from a franchise matchmaker. And yeah, there is an actual person. His job is to match me with the right franchise. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually a really lengthy process that, very, very thorough. And the goal was to match me with the right franchise based on my skills and my goals. And so after a long process, he recommended 3 franchises, and Synergy Home Care was one of them.
So did you say, what is Synergy Home Care? Like, did it appeal
exactly.
to you?
So I really actually didn't know what home care was at the time, but you can never connect the dots moving forward. You can connect dots moving backwards. And that's exactly what I felt happened in this moment, because while I was in my corporate IT job for 10 years in there, I was actually doing volunteer work, visiting homebound seniors. And through that process, I developed very deep friendships with seniors. One of them was with my neighbor, Grandpa Joe. And for 10 years, he was like my best friend. Every night after work, before I did my master's, we would sit on his porch and talk for hours. And one thing that was very clear to me, and that what I've learned from him and all the other seniors I've visited, is that they'd rather die than live in a nursing home. So that was something that stuck with me. So at that moment, when the franchise matchmaker talked to me about synergy home care, that's where I kind of, it all came together to me that Grandpa Joe was a dot in my life, that this is what I was meant to do.
I love that so much. I got to tell you, when I found out that you worked with seniors in 6th grade, we did a adopt a grandparent. And they would take us into nursing homes, and I got to connect with a man who didn't have his sight. And it was one of the most impactful and powerful experiences that I've had growing up, and realizing so much how they're forgotten about later in life.
Yep.
And that's why I'm so inspired by what you do, because you don't just own your synergy home care but you really advocate for them too in so many ways. Like, you are changing laws. Can you just talk a little bit about the work you're doing?
I wish I could change laws easily.
I just say that,
but so in the past year, I'm fortunate enough to be on the board of the New Jersey Home Care Association of America, and at the same time also be part of the legislative committee. So being in that role, we're advocating for a lot of changes for any related to home care, because caregiving is a crisis right now in the U.S., in America, and there's a lot of laws and legislation that needs to be changed in order to address the shortage and all the other issues that come with, providing care for seniors. And I'm very passionate about it, because, that's my people. And I always look back and think of Grandpa Joe, and knowing what he wants, what he always wanted. It makes me grateful that I'm able to honor his wishes, as well as all the other seniors out there, including my own parents.
I love that. Did Grandpa Joe know that you actually worked in that field? Were you working in that?
Unfortunately, he passed before I started the business.
Okay.
But I visited his cemetery, I visited his grave, and I talked to him that way.
Oh, I love that. I love that you're honoring his life. So let's just get to it. I know a lot of people are wondering, how did she make the $1 million? I'm imagining, I know I'm joking about it, because I'm imagining it's not really all about the money, but it's about that confidence and that mindset to get there. But you said it came at a really pivotal time in your life, a crossroads. Can you share about that?
Well, I guess that $1 million decision, what happened was when I turned 50, that was 3 years ago. And I guess to backtrack a little bit, right? When I talked earlier about how I got into synergy home care. So my boyfriend at the time, Tom, he actually ended up to be my business partner. But 3 years ago, when I turned 50, he was ready to retire, and he wanted to sell the business. And we had a buyer ready to go. But in my heart, something didn't feel right to me, that I felt I wasn't ready yet to sell. Although it would have been the best and easiest decision, because, it was right before COVID, and it would have set me free into a different path. But as I've said, something didn't feel right to me. So I followed my intuition. And then it was a big financial risk for me, but I decided to buy him out instead. And that's why it was a really big, it was a $1 million decision for me. But now, 3 years after, I'm now on the board of the New Jersey Home Care Association of America. Like what you've said, I've been a 2 times international bestselling author. I've been on podcasts. I'm sitting right here in front of you right now. And next week, I'll be closing on my first dream condo in New York City. So
Amazing.
None of these things would have happened if I did not listen to my intuition and sold the business 3 years ago.
I love that, because so many people, we question the intuition. Is that the voice, or it's not logical, right? But I know, I read that you actually took yourself away to get into silence. Share a little bit about, what that looks like for someone who wants to follow their intuition, or what your story was like with that.
So, so what I did at the time that I was deciding, I actually did go on a week-long retreat in Massachusetts in order for me to really know what it is that I needed to do. And so for me, I used the ACT principle. A stands for acknowledging that something's wrong. C is to carve out the time so in other words, carve out the time each day to kind of really listen, like go on walks, meditate, but do something to really carve out the time for you to understand what it is that your intuition is trying to tell you. And then the T is to take action. That once you get that clarity, you need to take action, and don't question or doubt yourself.
That's so key, because I think a lot of times we could get that inspiration and then we do not take action right away. And then by that point, we've talked ourselves out of so much.
Yep. And you know, my favorite book with Paul Coelho, right? That the world conspires to make your dreams come true if you passionately pursue what you want to do. And I absolutely believe that.
I love that you call yourself a joyful aging ambassador. Can you talk about what that is and how can someone, you know, that's in a certain part of their life, the second act as I call it, how can they live more joyfully?
I really want to promote the concept of joyful aging, that each new year brings new added excitement to your life, because, you know, you have more wisdom, you have more resources, you have more connections. And it's really about, it's a mindset, right, that needs to be cultivated. And at the same time, it's also through the actions. It's got to be intentional. And I actually also have I came up with the 4 C's for that. The first C is change. So basically, it's simple, right? We need to embrace change. And then, in other words, you should always be open to change, because being comfortable where you are never brings joy to your life. You will never find new things if you refuse any change. And that's a problem with getting older. A lot of times we are so afraid of change and stay comfortable, and we just stay in the same rut, but never get stuck in a rut. The next C would be connections, right? And it's really making deep, authentic connections with the right tribe. You need to find people who spark joy in your life, and you need to surround people that has the same zest in life as you are. It also means, you know, and also I also want to debunk the myth that as we get older that we can't make new friends, because that's not true. A lot of people think that they're done because all their friends are married, they have nothing. But for me, like as I've said, in the past 3 years alone, I've met at least five really good friends that I know are going to be my friends for life. And it's because, like, you know, when you embrace change and you live a joyful life, you enter into new spaces that allow you to meet new people that has the same energy as you, because you attract who you are. And then the third and important one is curiosity. To always have childlike curiosity, to try new things, to always be open to new adventures, because you just might find something that sparks joy in your life that you never knew before.
That's cool.
Thing. And then actually, I'm going to go with the 4th C, casket. It is kind of morbid, but I had to include it there because, you know, I think part of aging joyfully is acknowledging that we're all going to end there. All of us, there's no exception, right? And so we need to take into account like how the legacy that we want to be remembered. And a good practice actually is to write your obituary. And then based on that, right, you make sure based on the obituary that you want to be remembered or the legacy you want to remember, you work your life backwards so that you actually fulfill.
You've done such a good job at following these 4 C's in your life. And just, I mean, you exude joy, and I love having you, of course, on the show, but things weren't always so easy for you. I know that you battled cancer, and I'm curious, that actually led, or it seems like it led to a journey of health and physical fitness and wellness. Can you talk about that connection and what that path that led you there?
Okay, so the best way to describe my cancer experience is the phrase, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And that's absolutely how I battled cancer. Right from day one when I got the diagnosis, and I never even thought that I would get cancer. But I decided that I was gonna beat it head on. So I never made myself feel like a victim, right? So even during my radiation, I never even took times off except for the week of my surgery, but I didn't let myself slow down. I still went to work as normal, and I worked out the same way. And even when I was doing my daily radiation, I even worked out harder because I was determined to not make radiation make me weaker. And so right after radiation finished, I signed up for my first Spartan race. And then it wasn't easy for me because I was never an athlete. But that started my journey. And like, I loved the challenge. And then it made me sign up for it throughout the year so that I'm constantly training for something. And so now I'm actually training currently for my first bodybuilding competition next year.
Oh, wow. I need to hire you just to get a better body.
I'm not there yet.
Yes, you are, trust me. But, you know, I'm seeing this ongoing theme, and it's all about this mindset. Like, it's this belief first in doing something and then just consistently going after it and achieving all of these milestones. Where do you think that came from? Were you taught that? Were you raised around that? Do you think it's something that was just instilled in you?
Well, my father has always been a very determined individual, right? Like, he was a veterinarian, and that's why he came to the US, because when things fell apart in the US, he had to start his life all over again in this country. And he was 57 when he passed the veterinary board exams in New York after trying multiple times. So I think his resiliency is really set me up to know that, you know, if someone like him can't give up, I have no reason to not do what he has been doing all throughout his life.
Yeah, what a great example for you. And you just keep proving it over and over again with all that you're doing. I know for a lot of people, not even just when they're older, but when they're stuck in a rut, like, reinventing themselves is not easy. Any, quick advice for people who want to reinvent themselves, maybe at the later, parts of their life?
Not being afraid to, be courageous, not being afraid to take that next step. So your journey has obviously been one of power, of self-love and self-belief. I know that you co-authored Radical Self-Love, an amazing book, and I'm curious what that path for you of self-love has looked like. I was raised to believe that self-love is selfish. Mm-hmm. So I think all throughout my life, I didn't understand that was something that I was entitled to. And so when I finally realized that, right, I guess it really transformed me, because then it made me understand that I needed to have my cup filled first in order for me to give from the overflow. In my current field, in the home care business, where a lot of family caregivers give all they've got until they have nothing left to give, because that's what love does. But in the end, they end up it's actually a fact that a lot of family caregivers end up dying first because of the severe stress.
Wow.
So it's really, self-love is a really important aspect in our lives that, because if you don't, in the absence of it, dims your own light.
Your teams are so blessed to have you as their leader, someone who is worried about, their care. Like, as they're, caring for seniors, you're worrying about them and gifting them with, lessons about self-love. You filled up our cups today with inspiration and joy, and I'm so thankful for that. If you had any advice or a message for anyone listening today, is there anything that you would want to share with them? The one thing that I would share with anyone, especially for immigrants, right, like me, right, that there's definitely room for everyone on the table. Mm-hmm. That never be afraid that you're not good enough. Just work hard and just do your best every day. That's all you can do. For me, it's really about evolving each day. Life is an evolution. Like, you need to keep evolving in the same way that we upgrade our iPhones every few months. I think it's the same way with life. And that's the key to aging joyfully. We need to evolve as humans and become better versions of ourselves each time. Each iteration is a better version of us from yesterday. So powerful. Like, you give me a good reason to want to get older. To continue to get older. Yeah. It's exciting. You have so many things. You've got this amazing house, you've got this amazing business. Besides all the things that you've shared, is there something secretly that brings you joy that maybe many people don't know about? Well, I love sunsets. It may be corny, but I love the different shades, the different colors. It makes me imagine the Creator painting up in the sky, kissing me goodnight and saying, "Well done, Tina. Let's do this again tomorrow and let's have fun." That is so beautiful. Well, you're doing so much for so many. You're giving a voice to the often forgotten. You're bringing people over from your country to employ them. You are advocating for so many, and you're standing up and giving a voice for yourself. And I see you, and we all see you. Thank you so much for being here today on Good Morning Joy.
Thank you for having me.
And now it's time to go talk to some peeps on the street on, you guessed it, this week's
On days that I don't feel like I am motivated, I make it so. You can't stay in bed because nothing comes to you. You have to go and get it. Well, you have to have like a sense of obligation to yourself and to others. So when you have that obligation, you get yourself up.
What is the one thing that you say that you would do that without a doubt, no matter when you do it, it makes you feel joy?
I love dogs. And I love music. I actually make music. And I listen to music and I hang out with my friends. And we go to festivals, we dance.
Love it. Love it. You have a full life. You have a full life filled with joy. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you go and share your beautiful smile with someone that needs it today. It's a small act that will brighten the world. I look forward to seeing you next time on Good Morning Joy, where every day starts with a smile.